In the past several years, an idea has developed that everybody should carry some kind of a get-home bag. What's a get-home bag? Well, you know, as the name suggests, it's just a bag full of stuff that you need to get home in a grid down or survival type situation. Now, how much gear do you really need in a get-home bag? That much. Now, before you get angry and start leaving a lot of nasty comments, watch the rest of the video and let me explain this to you. Okay, the most important thing to have is your brain. People have been getting home for thousands of years without having 30 pounds of gear on their back. You can do it. Most Americans, most people worldwide probably, live within 10 to 15 miles of home. So let's say your goal is to get home. Well, you should be able to walk 10 to 15 miles. Here are some tips to help you out. Always dress for the weather. Now, I know most people don't do this. I've seen people go to the grocery store in their flip-flops and pajama bottoms in the winter because they're so used to just riding around in the car. They'll be in the garage, heat up their car, jump in the car, go to the grocery store or something. The most they'll be outside will be like a minute. The time it takes them to walk from the parking lot to the storefront. That's it. And that's how they dress. They don't dress for the weather. If you dress for the weather, you can forget about most of the items in your get-home bag. Now, let's say if it's cold weather, you dress for the cold. If it's warm weather, you don't. You may carry some rain gear with you, whatever. If you work in a place where you have to dress business style, you have to dress in business clothes, dress clothes. You can always stash some clothes at work or in your locker. Say if you went to school, if you're usually at school, you can stash some things in your locker, some sensible clothes in your locker at school, or you can keep them in your car at all times. But always have warm weather clothes or clothes for foul weather. Have them on, preferably, or at the very least, wherever you're going to be most of the time. Say it's at work or school, or if you're out hiking, whatever, just have the clothes with you for the weather. Dress for the weather. You should be able to drive around without your heating in your car. Just turn the heater off. Are you cold? Okay, then you need more clothes. Wear more clothes. Dress for the weather. And that goes especially for shoes. You're going to be walking 10 or 15 miles. Don't wear business shoes. Don't wear high heels. Wear some sensible shoes. So getting home is more of a probability than an impossible dream, okay? So number one, dress for the weather. Second thing to consider, get in shape. Now, I don't mean you have to be an athlete, but if you get winded walking from one end of Walmart to the other, you're not going to make it home. Get in shape. Take a walk every day. Do some calisthenics at home. Walk around the block now and then. Keep in reasonably good shape. You should be able to walk 10 or 15 miles over any kind of terrain. I can do it. I'm an old guy. I'm out of shape. I can still do it. I do it all the time. So Be able to walk 10 to 15 miles, whatever it takes to get you home. That's another extremely important thing. I mean, if you're not in shape, if you're terribly out of shape, you're not going to make it home. I mean, that's just reality, folks. I mean, you're going to have to find another way to get home. Maybe catch a ride or something. Maybe get airlifted. I don't know. But your get home bag is not going to get you home. Of course, something you should have is water. Even a 10 or 15 mile hike, you're going to need water. Also, munchies. Just a snack. 10 or 15 miles is not that far. You're not going to have to stop for lunch. You're not going to need too much. Okay, another thing you may want to have is a cheap first aid kit. In case you get some cuts and blisters, small things like that on the way home. Something you're sure to want, especially if you get stuck out at night, is a headlamp or a flashlight. It doesn't have to be a $300 technical. It doesn't have to be a $300 tactical flashlight. It can be a $1 flashlight. Whatever it takes to get you home. It only has to last for one trip. Figure that. Of course, check your batteries and make sure your batteries are okay. Another thing you may want to have, something like this, a little emergency sleeping bag. This is the Escape Bivvy by SOL. It's not good for extreme weather, but it'll keep you warm in moderate weather. It's water resistant, it's not waterproof, but you may want to lay down, take a nap, someplace safe, get out of the way of everybody else, and do that. So, yeah, getting home, even in a disaster situation, should not be an ordeal. Some people want to take things like bolt cutters, lock picks. Well, unless you're planning to do some criminal trespassing on the way home, you can leave that stuff. More important than that is, like I said, just use your head. You can think your way out of a lot of different problems. Just use your head. Of course, this is all... Oh, wait a minute. I forgot the most important item. Beer. You may want to have some beer. I may want to have some right now. And stressful situations, it doesn't hurt to have a beer. Just saying. You don't drink beer, leave it at home. Okay, before you start getting angry with me, just think that it's a personal choice. This get home bag stuff. Personally, I think if you had a giant get home bag, it would be more of a hindrance than a help. It would hinder your movement. If you're extremely out of shape, overweight, it could slow you down tremendously, and maybe even keep you from getting through some certain areas. Also, not having a giant pack on your back makes you less of a target for people who wish to victimize you. But like I was saying, the best idea in a disaster situation is to avoid people. Lay low. Forget this gray man stuff. How about the no man stuff? Just get out of sight and out of mind. If you can make your way home without contacting other people, so much better. Now, a lot of people I know, you're going, oh, I can't get home without my axe and my folding saw. No, you're not going to be stopping on the way home to build a log cabin. okay? Your goal is to get home. You're just getting from point A to point B as fast as you can, as efficiently as you can, as safely as you can. Oh, I can't get anywhere without my tactical pen. I may have to stab somebody in the eye on the way home. No, leave that home too. I mean, just take what you need, if anything. Best thing you can have is a sensible pair of shoes and a clear mind. That will get you home. And you think 10 to 20 miles is a long way. It is if you're going through difficult terrain or hostile territory. But consider our forefathers, our ancestors, did this stuff all the time. They didn't think anything of getting home. Let me read something from this book. It's called Private Yankee Doodle. It's written by J.P. Martin. He was a Revolutionary War soldier, an American. I'm going to read this short passage here. In the evening of the day we were here, just at dark, one of our officers came and told me that 2 of the men had deserted and had compelled another man to go with them. As they were all what we called old countrymen, it was conjectured that they had gone to the enemy, and I was accordingly ordered to take 9 men who were then in readiness and endeavor to overtake them before they could reach New York. I immediately set off, having received my orders, which were to go to what was called the English neighborhood, and if I could not find them or hear of them, to return. The English neighborhood was from 45 to 50 miles distant from the place we were then at. We traveled so hard that at daylight I had but 3 men of the 9 left with me, the other 6 having given out by the way. Now think of this. This was common during the Revolutionary War, Civil War, I'm sure any other war, that people were commonly traveling 30 miles a day, 40 miles a day, and a lot of times they weren't walking. They weren't taking leisurely strolls. They were running with full gear. I mean, they had their muskets. They had some food, if they were lucky, maybe a blanket, and that's about it. And they were running 30 miles a day. The Native Americans, when they were traveling back and forth on their trails, they would commonly travel at least 30 miles a day, at least, over rugged terrain, through thick forests, through creeks, winter and summer. So if there's a disaster situation and you had to get home, could you get home? Can you do it? You probably can. It's more mental than it is physical, for the most part. As long as you're dressed sensibly, you know where you're going, you can usually get there. Now, I hope I haven't offended anybody. I didn't mean to by making this video. I was just trying to open up a discussion, maybe give you some ideas, maybe just make you think a little bit about what a get-home bag is actually good for. Don't let it be a false sense of security bag. Don't think just because you have a giant backpack full of gear that you're ready for any situation that comes along. And you're not. Who knows? You don't know what you could encounter along the way. Roads could be blocked. You could meet obstacles such as fires, closed bridges or bridges that are out, mobs of angry people, police roadblocks, military roadblocks. You don't know what you're going to encounter along the way. But the most important thing is to just keep your wits and have a goal. And your goal is to get home.